Righty, this is TKI Glossary, okay, and Observational Study. So this is from the reliable source. All right, now, a study in which a researcher attempts to understand the effect of a variable, the explanatory variable, may have on some phenomenon the response. So we've got the effect of the explanatory on the response, but where the researcher is not able to control some important conditions of the study. So there's no random splitting them into groups. There's no allocation of a certain amount of a drug or substance or whatever, or treatment. In an observational study, we are just observing. The researcher has no control over the value of the explanatory variable. The researcher can only observe the value of the explanatory variable for each individual and, if necessary, allocate individuals to groups based on the observed values. So that's important that it's happening after, okay? After the explanatory and response, then they might split them into groups. They might split them into groups by how much of the explanatory different people took, but they didn't randomly allocate it. Because the groups in the study were formed by values of an explanatory variable that individuals happened to receive, so self-selected, it is not by randomization. If it was done by randomization, it would be an experiment, not an observational study. The groups may not be similar in all ways apart from the value of the explanatory. So it's like a self-selected group. So any observed differences in the response, if large enough, between the groups, on average cannot be said to be caused by differences in the values of the explanatory. Because if people have chosen to take a particular illegal drug, they might have chosen that because they've got psychological problems and they're self-medicating. So you can't say that the actual drug caused them to go psycho because they might have had issues in the first place. The differences in the response could be due to the differences in the groups that are not related to the explanatory variable. Okay, cool, done. And from the same glossary, I'm going to find the experiment. So there we go, experiment. Whoops. And I think that's worth reading as well. So, experiment in its simplest meaning is a process or study that results in the collection of data, the outcome of which is unknown. In the statistical literacy thread at level 8, that's us, experiment has a more specific meaning. Here, an experiment is a study in which the researcher attempts to understand the effect that a variable, the explanatory variable, may have on some phenomenon in the response by controlling. So this again is that idea of an experiment having a form of control and the observational study not having that control. In an experiment, the researcher controls the conditions by allocating individuals to groups and allocating the value of the explanatory variable to be received by each group. A value of the explanatory variable is called a treatment. A well-designed experiment, the allocation of subjects to groups is done by randomization. Randomization attempts to make the characteristics of each group very similar so that if each group was given the same treatment, the groups would respond in a similar way. We can actually use randomization things where you randomly regroup and you see if things are happening by chance alone or whether there's another factor. Experiments usually have a control group, a group that receives no treatment or receives an existing or established treatment. This allows any differences in the response on average between the control group and the other group to be visible. When the groups are similar in all ways apart from the treatment received, then any observed differences in the response, if large enough, among the groups on average is said to be caused by the treatment. Okay, the control group might be given a placebo. Okay, that we can just add in. So basically the experiment, we can say one change in the explanatory caused the response to be different. So claims can be made. Claims, yes, but no claims or very few claims by observational studies. Okay?